Daily Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Of course, it's been a little bit slow right now. Last year around this time, the New York Giants were going through the coaching search, so I had endless content. But right now, we're kind of waiting for the draft to, start the process and things like that as we start to hear more and more rumors. But I wanted to get a video up today talking about Devonta Smith, some of the news that came out on him. I also wanted to touch on Mel Kiper's mock draft. I'm going to have my mock draft up probably in about a week, giving you guys my opinion about where I think the first round will play out at this point in time. It is way too early right now. And not that I, take Mel Kiper as gospel at all. Obviously, he's been doing this for a long time. I respect his opinion, but I don't agree with a lot of the picks that he had. But I thought that the situation that he presented for the New York Giants is a very realistic situation. And a lot of us may not want to hear it, but in his draft, he had the top 3 wide receivers off the board when the New York Giants were up at number 11. I'm going to tell you guys his mock draft, and then I'm going to tell you some of the options that I think Dave Gettleman could potentially have at that spot in that exact situation, and what I may do if I was the general manager for the New York Giants. But first, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the story about Devonta Smith, who a lot of you guys have ranked as your number 1 wide receiver. Of course, the former Heisman Trophy winner, and right now the biggest question mark with Devonta Smith going into this draft is unquestionably his height and his weight. When you look at the production, it's there. He caught for over 1,700 yards, I think it was, in the regular season. He's a great route runner, a great prospect, no doubt about it. He stands at 6'1", 175. A lot of people feel like he may not even be as heavy as that or potentially as tall as that. And today, Devonta Smith, and I'm going to read the exact article, had an opportunity to put that to bed, decided not to do it. He did say, I think, from what I heard, he will get measured at his pro day, but that's kind of in Alabama, more so in a controlled environment. At the Senior Bowl, he decided not to do that. Will this hurt his draft stock? I don't know, and this is a long process. We're going to have to wait to continue to see how it plays out. The only knock surrounding Alabama star wide receiver Devonta Smith is his slender. I got this from Yahoo Sports, by the way. Yet dynamic frame will hold up at the NFL level. And Smith did himself no favors attempting to end any concerns regarding the matter as Senior Bowl activities got underway this week. Smith, the 2021 Heisman Trophy winner, declined to have his height and weight taken on Tuesday, adding fuel to the perception that his thin frame could lead to durability concerns in the NFL. Alabama lists Smith at 6'1", 175 pounds, but undersized players are generally shorter and lighter than what they're listed at, so it's unclear what his true measurements are. But there's no questioning his on-the-field talent. So there you have it. And do I think this will affect his draft stock? I mean, if a team is really in love with Devonta Smith, I don't think they're going to let an inch or two really deter them from potentially, selecting him to be their wide receiver. He is a little bit slender in weight. When you saw me do the film breakdown with Fireside Giants, which hopefully we get back up this week, you saw him get pushed off the line of scrimmage in that one clip, and that's something that people worry about. And you could always put on 8, 9, 10 pounds of muscle. I guess some people may question whether or not that'll affect some of his speed, but it's undeniable. The guy's got great hands. The guy could leap. The guy's a terrific route runner, and he's still a terrific prospect. I do think it's possible he could go third out of the wide receivers, and some people may call me crazy. I know a lot of the mock drafts don't have that right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is speculative. This is my opinion. I think Jalen Waddle could easily be viewed as a better prospect by people. He's faster. He was the guy that was getting more targets before he went down with the injury. And he's stronger, in my opinion. He weighs more. He's 5'11". I think Waddle could easily be viewed that way. And Ja'Marr Chase, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in this draft class. And had he played this year, I think he would have been far and away the number 1 wide receiver in this year's draft class. Of course, we're going to have to wait and see. The fact that he did sit out, the fact that there is no combine, it may affect Ja'Marr Chase's draft status. But I wanted to go over what Mel Kiper had to say today in his mock draft. I'm not going to tell you what he said about each individual prospect, but I wanted to go over his first 10 picks and kind of give you guys some of the some of the things that I think that Dave Gettleman could be thinking about in that spot. Kind of like a little bit of a mini mock draft, but this was his order. I don't agree with all of it. Trevor Lawrence, of course, number 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had Devonta Smith going number 2 to the New York Jets, and anything is possible. But if I'm the Jets in that spot, I don't see how you take a wide receiver. You either take a quarterback or you trade out of the pick. You could get a king's ransom there, and you could probably still get Devonta Smith or Ja'Marr Chase at 5 or 6 if a team's willing to trade up and get a quarterback there. So I'm not in love with that pick, but for the sake of the exercise, it's more so for me Like, let's just pretend it didn't go in that order. It's more so for me to simulate what the Giants could do if all 3 wide receivers were off the board. He had Jamar Chase going 3 to the Dolphins. So 2 wide receivers in the first 3 picks. Zach Wilson, the quarterback, going 5. Sewell going 4 rather. Sewell going 5 to the Bengals. We all know they desperately need an offensive tackle, and if he's there at 5, you could bet your bottom dollar he will be selected by the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're definitely going tackle there. Jalen Waddle, number 6 to the Eagles. So at that point, he had all 3 wide receivers off the board by pick number 6. Then he had Trey Lance, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, another offensive tackle. Oh, I skipped Justin Fields as well. He had Justin Fields going 7, then Trey Lance, then Micah Parsons, then Rashawn Slater, and then he had the New York Giants on the clock. And with that pick, he had the New York Giants selecting Kyle Pitts. And in this situation, a lot of Giants fans are going to say, I know because I talked to them on my channel, you have to go Kyle Pitts there. And don't get me wrong, Kyle Pitts is a tremendous weapon. And I'm not going to be upset if the New York Giants select Kyle Pitts if all 3 wide receivers are off the board. I would agree at that point in time that he is the best weapon on the board for the New York Giants. The question that you have to ask yourself is it worth it to take a position that really isn't viewed as, one, near the importance of other positions that may be there, and it's not as big of a need as other positions. And I'm not saying it's not a need. Believe me, I'm not a big Evan Ingram guy, but I think you could definitely argue that we need a number 1 wide receiver much more than we need a tight end. But of course, at that point in time, the top 3 wide receivers would be off the board. However, you could look on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to talk about trade possibilities. At number 11, in this exact scenario, there are no cornerbacks that are off the board. You have Patrick Surtain staring you right in the eyes, who ended up going to the San Francisco 49ers at number 12. And I know we're all, committed to the offensive side of the football, and I completely get it. But if you get the number 1 corner in this year's draft class sitting you right in the eyes, a former teammate of Xavier McKinney, a guy who I feel would fit this scheme beautifully, he's a press cover corner, I think you at least have to entertain it. The other thing I'll bring up is it's possible if we let Leonard Williams walk. If we keep Leonard Williams, it's not possible. Another guy you could consider there, if you're going defense, is Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye, in my opinion, is probably the best defensive lineman in this year's draft class. If you listen to a lot of the experts, you watch some of the film, the guy has a ton of talent out of Michigan. So if Williams were to go, Kwity Paye's an option there as well at number 11. But the thing that I would really entertain in this exact spot, and Farley as well, I want to point out, a cornerback that I really like. But one thing I would really entertain in this spot, and I'll talk about some of the possible landing destinations, you have to at least consider trading down if all 3 wide receivers are off the board. And who would you trade down with? Well, in my opinion, if you're going to be making a trade there, you're going to be trading for quarterback-needy teams. And at this point in the draft, however, the Giants get bad luck, right? Because all 4 quarterbacks are off the board. But let's just say, for argument's sake, only 3 were off the board, right? Let's say they went a corner with one of those 4 quarterbacks and Trey Lance was still available. In that situation, I think the Giants have to entertain trading down. You got a team like the San Francisco 49ers, who maybe at that point they still have Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they haven't figured out their quarterback situation. They're a team that is a threat to potentially take that 4th quarterback. Then you could have a team like New England at number 15 willing to move up to number 11. You have to entertain that because I think you could still probably get one of these elite prospects at 15 and maybe get a 2nd round pick to couple with, the second that you have, maybe double up at the wide receiver position there in the 2nd round and get some very good prospects. That, to me, would be the optimal approach. In this situation, you're probably not going to have a lot of people trading up for Mac Jones, though. So if it was me and all 4 quarterbacks were off the board, I would be between Kyle Pitts and Patrick Surtain or potentially Caleb Farley. Farley, to me, has the most upside at the cornerback position personally, but I do think Surtain, if you listen to most experts, you watch some of his film, how he would fit this defense, former teammate of McKinney, I think he'd fit this defense very well. Of course, he's got the Alabama ties, of course, to Joe Judge, too. In this scenario, I personally would probably lead Surtain, but I wouldn't be upset at all if we ended up taking Kyle Pitts. I completely respect Kyle Pitts' game. I'm not one of these guys that just sees tight end and sees this guy can't add worth to this football team. You look at some of the best teams in football. Baltimore Ravens have a very good tight end. San Francisco 49ers. 49ers wanted to double up the tight end spot. If you remember last year, they were looking to potentially trade to acquire Evan Ingram to pair with George Kittle. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. You look at Gronkowski with the Buccaneers. Tight ends are very important. he's a better prospect than Evan Ingram ever was. I'm not telling you he's a great blocker. He's not. He's a willing blocker. He's just a better athlete. And he would instantly help the New York Giants in the red zone, standing at 6'6" as a tall target. Would I be in love with this pick? I'm not going to say in love with it because it's not an immediate need. I view cornerback as a bigger need than a tight end. But he is versatile, something that Joe Judge talks about as well. In the end, if you ask me right now, I don't think all 3 wide receivers are going to be off the board, but you'll find that out when I do my mock draft in a week. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. There is a precedent for this happening, though. A lot of people say this never happens. I think it was 2015 or 16. It was a draft where I think the John Ross draft, 3 wide receivers won in the first 9 picks. So it has happened before. When you look at the field in this class, there's not a lot of great defensive prospects. So is it possible? Yes. Am I going to rule it out? No. I think it's something that the New York Giants have to be prepared for on draft night. And knowing that this is a possibility, if there is a way for the New York Giants to obtain a wide receiver in free agency, I think it only makes more sense because it is possible. All 3 are off the board. And at that point, I think you're looking at a cornerback if Surtain was available, or potentially taking Kyle Pitts or trading down if there were only 3 quarterbacks off the board. But I just want to give my thoughts on, some of these things that I saw today. As far as Smith goes, do I think that's going to really hurt his draft stock? Probably not. But like I've said all along, I could easily see these other 2 wide receiver prospects jumping him. I think it's neck and neck between all 3 of them. I know a lot of people just look at the stats and they saw that he won the Heisman Trophy, but there's questions to his game just like there is for the other 2 wide receivers. Ja'Marr Chase, to me, will be the number 1 wide receiver off the board. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. I think he's the best one in the class. And then after that, him and Waddle are very close. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, though. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.